Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of the Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua the Genius, along here with my beautiful co-host, Sarah Ann Mitchell. And today we're going to be talking to you guys about a really polarizing topic that's going on right now in the tech community, and it's concerning companies having access to photos and prevention of what's called Csam, or child sexual abuse material. All right. So Apple, as you guys know, as we talked about, is coming out with a new operating system of iOS 15. I would say somewhere around September is when it's slated to come out. And with this new release of the operating system, there's a new feature that's coming out that's called Csam detection in iCloud photos. Okay. And basically what this technology was created for is to prevent this illegal and harmful material from being stored in a cloud service, as well as to protect children from being exposed to this material. So I want to walk through some of the technologies behind this new initiative, and how it can benefit us in the future, as well as some of
potential abuse situations.
Yeah. There's a lot of concerns around how this technology is operating when it comes to our photos, our sensitive data, our personal photos that we store in our phones, which we believe and we trust are ours, right? And so, I am a huge Apple advocate. As you've heard me before on the podcast, and there are a lot of Apple users that trust the Apple ecosystem and the Apple platform. We trust the company with our data, with protecting our data, with how they create their devices and create their software. We feel comfortable putting our sensitive information inside of these devices. And so now with the release of this technology, it's raised some concerns around privacy and how much access Apple has into our devices, right? And what they're able to do with them. So to start, again, Csam stands for child or children sexual abuse material, okay? And there is an organization called the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Okay, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they have a database of images, of illegal images that they have categorized as Csam images. Okay, so this is a global database that they've created that now Apple is using to compare your photos to this database. Okay, and that's where the first alarm goes off. They're like, wait, how does...
Why is Apple looking at my photos?
Yeah, how does Apple... Why are they scanning?
And they champion privacy, user privacy.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of a disconnect there.
Right.
Initially, just on its face.
How are they able to see my photos? I thought that my photo album was secure.
Encrypted end to end.
And so this needs to be explained just a little bit. Okay, so let's start there. So the first way that Apple is looking at your photos, it is only referencing photos that are being uploaded to iCloud. Okay, so when you purchase an iPhone and you sign up for an Apple ID and you put in your email address, etc., and you attach your card, there are some automatic features that are turned on when you sign up for iCloud. Okay, and iCloud Photos is on by default, right? And the reason why it's told to us that it's on by default is so in the event that you may be oblivious to the features of iCloud and you signed up for it, and you may have taken 200-300 photos, and then you drop your phone, or you drop it in the ocean, or you drop it and crack it to where it doesn't power back on.
You can't access your data anymore.
That data is automatically backed up. Okay, so your iCloud Photos, that feature is automatically turned on. So the process of Apple looking at your photos, the first thing that has to happen, the initiation of your photo being uploaded to iCloud, that part has to start. Okay, that part has to start, and when I mean by
for
start,
this review process to be initiated.
Yes.
Okay.
So the first part they categorize it in two components, and so the first part we've talked about encryption, and we've talked about Face ID and Touch ID and where that information is stored. There's a secure area in your phone called the secure enclave. And there's processing and data that happens in that area that is like super encrypted that not even Apple can gain access into. And so the first part of this two-step process of scanning your photos is that when the process starts of you uploading your photo to iCloud, there's an on-device analysis that says, okay, hey, I'm gonna scan this photo, it's being uploaded. Let me scan the photo first. And on the phone, I already have a database of those Csam images. And if there's a potential match, I'm gonna flag it, okay? I'm gonna flag it, and I'm gonna create a little note. That little note is the, did you have something, Sarah?
Yeah, so I kind of want to clarify, when you say that it's scanning the photo, it's not technically like doing a scan of the image. It's basically in the same way that Face ID is like drawing a math problem across the image of your face to create a code to represent that image. That's what's happening on this level, no?
Correct. So we've had conversations about encryption and what hashes are. All right, and hashes are basically a alphanumeric string of characters that represents an image. Okay, and so when I say that the Csam database is stored on your device, it's not the actual photos that are stored, because it's illegal in the majority of the countries in the world. It is illegal to hold these photos in any type of manner. So you're not holding these photos in your phone, you're holding the hash, right? The alphanumeric string of characters that corresponds to a particular image. And the way that this encryption works, when you create a hash for an image, there's no other image that can replicate that same hash.
Unless it is that same image.
Exactly. So when we start the process of iCloud and it starts that upload, it looks at your photo and says, hey, I'm going to scan this photo and create a hash. If that hash then matches the hash that's in the Csam database, then I'm going to notate that on the upload to iCloud. The second part of that process is when it leaves your phone and goes to the iCloud servers, it does another check to see if that same token is validated on the Csam database on the iCloud server. And if you accumulate enough of these notes on your phone, I believe they call them secure tickets, or secure tickets, right? They call them secure tickets. So if on that first phase, when your photo is being uploaded, that note is a secure ticket, and that secure ticket is uploaded with your photo up to iCloud. And if it is validated a second time on iCloud, it's notated on your profile. And if you accumulate, I believe the threshold is 30.
Yeah.
Yep. If you accumulate 30 of these secure tickets, then it initiates a human review. Okay. Somebody at Apple.
Okay. So this is not just artificial intelligence left to run solo.
Correct. Okay. So they a lot of pushback about this technology is that one, it can potentially create a backdoor, and two, about false positives, right?
Yeah, like you washing your child in a bathtub or something like that.
About false positives. So the false positive is there's a lot of parents, hey, I'm filming my kids, as a child in a bathtub, and they might be washing them, and they might be nude in the bathtub. Is Apple going to scan that photo and deem it as inappropriate?
Send your profile to the
content? Right. A lot of people, we talk about being tried in two areas of our society: being tried in the court of law, and then being tried in the court of public opinion. Right. And so if you are let's say this happens to you, and you are occurred a false positive on your iCloud account, and what happens is in that human review, if Apple deems that, hey, this is enough for us to notify the authorities are the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. They send a report to that organization, and then that organization then deals with your case how it sees fit, which usually would mean some type
Legal
of authority. Yeah, some type of
ramifications,
legal ramifications. Something is going to occur because these are illegal pictures that you cannot have. It is unlawful for you to store these in any type of manner. The other part of that is the other part of that is being able to trust the company with utilizing your pictures in the correct manner. So when you're uploading those pictures to iCloud, you're saying, okay, I'm trusting Apple to hold these photos and not scan my photos and learn about them.
Or sell the data that they glean from these photos for profit, which
Correct.
is what's done. Because this process is currently being done by Google, by Samsung, by all of these other tech companies. Apple is coming into the fold now, but the difference is that their method is more, it conserves user privacy more than, like, Google is literally just looking at all your photos you upload to their online server, to their version of iCloud.
Correct. Correct. So a lot of users use Google Photos, and the reason why I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and this guy was like, yeah, how when I search Google Photos and I put in dog or I put in my house, it automatically brings up those photos. Well, that's because they've scanned and they've done artificial intelligence on my photos, and they're able to give me that information back. Apple's stance is that if your photo is not flagged on that initial analysis that happens on your device, and that's the difference, right? The difference is also where the gray area comes in, right? So the difference between how Apple does their validation check and their analysis as opposed to Google and Facebook. And speaking of which, before I get into that, Facebook and Google have found Csam images on their profiles, and I believe the count of Facebook was over, I think it was 20 million cases. 20 million cases of Csam images have been found circulating through the Facebook platform. And on
That's
Google,
crazy.
Yep, up 20 million, and there was 500,000 on the Google Photos platform. Okay, just to throw some numbers out there to you to how
Of what's been occurring.
Yeah, and the volume, right? The volume. These are illegal, pornographic, violent,
Depictions of children.
images, content, depictions of children that are illegal to own. And over the Facebook platform, 20 million. Google platform, a little over 500,000. Right? So the way that it's different between how Google and Facebook as opposed to Apple analyze these images is that when your photos are in Google Photos or in the Facebook gallery, all of the photos are scanned, every single one of them, right? On the Apple version or the Apple algorithm, that it's a two-step process. As we talked about, that first step is comparing your photo as it's being uploaded to the cloud, and it compares with the on-device database, and if there is a 99.9% match, that secure ticket is created. If there's no match, then that secure ticket is never created, and they learn nothing about your photo as it's being uploaded to iCloud. It uploads to iCloud as it's been doing as long as iCloud has been here, right? The encryption is not compromised. You have to turn on or have iCloud Photos enabled. If you have iCloud Photos disabled, this process never happens.
Yeah.
It never happens. It's a part of the iCloud upload. So if you never use iCloud to store your photos, this scan is never is never initiated, and your photos are never sent to the iCloud server. So your photos are safe in that manner, that they aren't scanned by Apple in any way, shape, or form.
Processed in any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Correct. And so with knowing that, there's a lot of questions around, well, do they have access to my text messages? Do they have access to be able to lock my phone remotely? Do they have access to maybe other applications on my phone and be able to grab information? That's some of the gray area and some of the concern.
That's why people are scared. They're like, what? How am I supposed to know that Apple is gonna stop here? How am I supposed to trust that a government, a country is not gonna say, "Hey, Apple, we need to use this for some sort of surveillance because this is the great threat." You know what I'm saying? Like, child pornography is something we could all get behind that we want to, extinguish from our society. But, like, how am I supposed to trust that it's going to end there and it's not going to run amok?
And so that's kind of, really what this conversation is around trust, right? We're in 2021. I would say 85 to 90% of the people that use smart devices use some type of cloud-based storage.
Yep.
That's just the reality.
If it's not Dropbox, it's a Google Photos,
You're
Google
storing
Drive.
your stuff somewhere other than on your phone. So you have to put trust into these companies. You have to decide what company has been around that has built up enough rapport with you as a customer to say that I feel comfortable giving my information to you and letting you hold my information as I use your platforms. Okay, these companies have been around for 30, 40 years, some even longer, right? Some have built up a reputation of putting the customer first and privacy and encryption and wanting to protect the user experience. Some have exploited it for
ad dollars.
Ad dollars, yes. Right? So which company are you going to trust in? Me personally, you can probably already guess it, I've chosen to put my trust in Apple. And that comes from me being a user, as well as I've been behind the veil. So I've seen how a lot of this is operated behind the veil, how some of this stuff has been rolled out, how it's been tested, right? The amount of the meticulous effort and focus that Apple puts on their software and their features, and how they roll out these different initiatives to make sure that they dot all their I's and cross all the T's, right? And I put my faith in that. Not to say that Apple can do no wrong and that they're perfect, but if I'm going to choose, Apple is who I've chosen. So with that being said, with that being my choice of trust, I then go and say, all right, Apple has told me that there's encryption that occurs from my device and my photos and my messages through iMessage, all that information is encrypted as it travels and traverses around the interwebs and hits their servers and goes around. It's protected. So I appreciate that. Now Apple is telling me that they built a technology and an algorithm that will scan photos for the particular purpose to prevent Csam images from being stored in iCloud servers, because it's illegal to house that information on your device as well as in iCloud servers. They say that is the one particular reason, the only reason that this technology was built. And the reason why they have decided to release it now is because they figured out a way to scan photos
without actually compromising the user privacy.
Correct. And that's what I appreciate. They put in the thought and the effort to figure out a system, right? A system that wouldn't compromise my data, but would get the job done. And we can all agree that Csam, that child sexual abuse material, shouldn't be anywhere for us to view, and it shouldn't be stored anywhere that can be harmful to children or even us as a populace. So I believe we agree there. And I believe that a technology should be created to protect us from that, especially our children, right? So it comes to the question, all right, so now Apple has created this technology. Well, couldn't it be used to scan another database, right? Mm-hmm. And so I want to point something out to you here real quick. There's the definition of a backdoor. The definition of a backdoor is a covert method of bypassing normal authentication or encryption in a computer which results in the hacker obtaining unauthorized access to content or administrative privileges. Okay, that is the definition of a backdoor. The electronic, I believe the Electronic Trade Commission. The Electronic Trade Commission is saying that Apple is creating a backdoor into iPhones or into the iOS platform. Now, given how I've just described how the iCloud photo processing works, I don't agree with that stance. I don't agree that
it is truly a backdoor.
Yeah, I don't think that it's a backdoor because it's contingent. It's more of a filter. It's contingent upon you uploading your photos to iCloud. That process of analysis and secure ticket and validation only occurs the moment that the process starts of your photo leaving your library and starting the transition to the iCloud server.
iCloud, yep.
If that never occurs, then Apple doesn't have any other authorities or ways to access any other data in your phone without your consent. And so if I understand it in that way, I disagree with the community as it stands right now. And if I go up, I had a it wasn't the Electronic Trade Commission, it's the Electronic Frontier Company. Excuse me, I'll make sure I'll put them down in the description. The Electronic Frontier Company. All right. And there was I'll read you another thing. There was another excerpt by one of my, I don't want to say role models, but guy that I,
keeping tabs on?
Yeah, keeping tabs on. That I appreciate some of his stances and feedback as it pertains to cybersecurity and technology.
And surveillance.
And global surveillance is Mr. Edward Snowden. And as you guys know, Edward Snowden used to work for our government. He used to be a member of the NSA and the CIA. He was a high-level system administrator. So basically he had a bird's eye view of all the technologies that our government uses for surveillance, for espionage,
and foreign nationals.
Exactly, 1,000%. So his take on this, he said, no matter, and this was a tweet, you can look this up on his account. He said, no matter how well-intentioned, Apple is rolling out mass surveillance to the entire world with this. Make no mistake, if they can scan for kiddie porn today, they can scan for anything tomorrow. They turned $1 trillion of devices into iNarcs without asking. End quote.
It says Edward from the Russian tundra.
Yes. It's a pretty strong statement. And we've had this conversation about backdoors before. And that conversation was the San Bernardino case. And there was a terrorist that was a part of this case. And the government, that I believe was the FBI, came to Apple and said, hey, I need you to unlock this phone for us because we believe that he has information that could harm our country. Or he's withholding information about this investigation that we need access to. Apple said, get out of my office. I'm not doing that. And the FBI was like, wait, you don't want to help us? Yeah, it was like, you don't want to help us? Like, you're an American company.
It comes to the compromise of personal privacy for national security.
Correct. They were basically asking Apple to create a skeleton key, create a global key that we can put into any iPhone, and we can just twist it, and we can unlock it and get any information that we want. Apple said, no, you can't. We're not doing that. Because if we do it for this phone, then that compromises every other phone out there in the world. And we're not giving you that power because we want to...
The U.S. government is not below human rights abuses.
Exactly. So we want to protect our customers. Now, we will do what we can for information that we have in the cloud. And there have been ways that Apple gives information to authorities and law enforcement all the time. But when it comes to compromising encryption and compromising user privacy at the will of the government, Apple has not folded. So now we come to the conversation of, okay, now Apple, you created this technology. What's to say that China can't call up and say, hey, we have a couple photos that we want you to add to your database. And if you don't do it, then we're going to stop selling your iPhones in our country. Click. What does Apple do at that time? And that's another part of this gray area and another part of this apprehension about this technology rolling out, is that yes, Apple has created a very, very, very intricate and somewhat perfect system, in my opinion, when it comes to resolving this pain point, right? They resolve this pain point very well, in my opinion. However, with that comes the concern of, now this technology has been created, can it be repurposed for something else?
More nefarious.
Because right now it's specifically for the Csam database and specific hashes that Apple has. So there's a list of hashes on the Csam database. Apple has reinterpreted those hashes. So basically created a second layer of encryption on those hashes. So they've made it even more particular to only this set of information. Now, if they get pressed by other governments to say, hey, we want to scan some things that are important to us individually, maybe some photos of maybe a president or a dictator in a compromising scenario, or another law enforcement or government official or public figure or businessman that might influence the government to say, hey, I want this removed from the masses. Apple has, I think it's coming up to 1 trillion phones, maybe more,
in circulation and use in the world.
All globally, all over the world. Right? So then we also have, how are we doing on time, Sarah?
28 minutes. Okay.
20 minutes? Okay, I got a couple of things to talk about. We talk about surveillance, right? We talk about surveillance, and well, back to, before we get into surveillance, back to Edward's comment. Do I agree with Edward's comment? Do I agree that Apple has now turned their over trillion devices into iNarcs? Yes and no.
On its face, technically true.
Yes.
The concern comes from a valid place. Mm-hmm. But I feel like he was being a little dramatic.
yes.
You know.
But given Edward's position, that's not dramatic at all.
No, I feel like he's so deep into that particular industry of cybersecurity that I'm sure he's seen some things.
Yeah, he was like, nah. I know what this is going to look like in 5 years.
He got his V mask on.
Yeah. He's not thinking about right now. He's like, I've seen the inception of technology, of this surveillance technology.
The equivalent of this for the U.S. government. So I'm pretty sure he's like, y'all, this, I've seen this abused and misused. So what's to say this is not going to occur again?
It's back to trust. Who do you trust with your personal data? What company, private company, are you choosing to trust with your data? So we talk about surveillance and how they're able to find you, right? So you upload your information to iCloud and Apple sends this report. Okay, well, what's in this report? Is it the photos? What other identifying information about you is sent to this organization? And how are they able to locate you?
I mean, if you got your location services on, that might not be too hard.
But Apple said that that's encrypted. Apple said that there's stuff about my location.
Also, Apple was using technology when COVID and everything is ramping up. They're using location services to alert people who have been in contact with potential positive cases based on their location. So if you kind of like, you know how Facebook...
That's through the Find My network.
So you know how Facebook want you to be around people enough, they just start popping up in your suggested friends. Maybe you know this person, you might want to add them. That's using your location and proximity to suggest, you know,
But that is
a feature.
because you have given Facebook access to your location. And once you give them that access, you
So
allow
I'm saying
them
with
to
the
do.
case of the COVID stuff,
Uh-huh.
a public health emergency,
Uh-huh.
how does that factor in? Because that they're saying this is important enough for us to utilize this data for
You can
public
opt
safety.
in my understanding, you can opt in to that analysis, and your location is used. However, Apple can't then use that information in another scenario against you, in my
Okay.
understanding.
Okay.
Right? So they can't like pull your location out of one app to say, hey, you're here because you gave this application your location.
Yeah.
I don't think that authority is held by Apple. The way that I believe, and the way that's explained to me, Edward talks about this in one of his interviews that he did with Joe Rogan. You guys can go watch it on YouTube. He talks about how your phone is always communicating with surrounding networks. It's basically yelling out to the space to find the nearest
Closest
tower.
tower to connect to.
Okay.
That's how the police find you. Triangulate on your location.
The reason why they can find you is because each iPhone that you buy, any smart device, okay, any smartphone has, and that connects via a cellular network, has what's called an IMEI. Okay, and that IMEI is a number that is unique. It's a global identifier, meaning that your phone is the one of one. There is no other phone that has this IMEI in the world. Okay? When your phone, it just has to be powered on. When it's sitting there, it's consistently communicating. You can't see any of this because radio waves are
They're
invisible
not
to
visible,
us.
yeah.
Right? We can't see them. Okay? So it's shouting out. And when the tower hears it, it needs to write down some information and notate where this scream is coming from.
Connected, yeah, how the proximity, and you know this
And the IMEI.
and the IMEI number, because that's the identifier. And we talked about this in one of our earlier podcasts, but the police department here in the Virgin Islands and in the States as well, because I'm pretty sure they learned this technique from the New York. There's some collaboration between the New York police office and there's like training stuff that happens. So like the police down here in the Virgin Islands are able to, if there's a crime that they're investigating, they can get a report from the cell companies of the IMEIs that have connected to cell towers in the area of interest, in the time frame of interest, and use that information to further, investigate and break down, okay, so this IMEI connects to this location at the evening hour, so this is probably somebody who lives in the area, versus this IMEI was only here for this amount of time and then it left. That's probably not a resident. Now, that's a lead to kind of pursue at that point.
And then you ask, okay, wait, Joshua, they have my IMEI. Who cares? Like, it's just a number. How can they identify who I am? Well, your cell phone company keeps a record of those IMEIs and who they gave those out to. And that account is registered to your name, your location, your home address, your billing address,
social security number,
credit card information. The police can get all that information. The cell phone companies are much more cooperative with local enforcement than tech companies are. Much more cooperative. And so getting your location via the network or cell towers is very easy. In fact, it's quite easy.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a matter of crunching numbers to a point.
So if you're somebody that's out there, okay, I hope you're looking at me. If you're somebody that's out there,
look me in my eyes,
that is holding this information in your phone and sending it to others in attempts to manipulate them, all right, and you use an iPhone, somebody's coming for you, buddy. All right, because finding you is not hard. no matter who you are.
Not even just iPhones. It's anything that can connect to a cellular network.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, that's that point. Okay. Yes.
There's a second component to.
I'm getting there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I was about to say, don't forget.
Yep. So Csam is to wrap that up. Csam is very important to mitigate and to keep out of reach of those who want to use this content to harm others. All right. I think that Apple is being transparent about how they're rolling out this information. I think they are being transparent about how they created it and their intention. But I also think that the rollout of this technology definitely creates an opportunity for more conversation about what information we have in our phone, how much trust we give tech companies to store this information, right? And what does the future of cybersecurity look like? Right? What does it look like? You're seeing these different technologies roll out. You're seeing two-factor authentication. You're seeing a Google Authenticator. Now you're seeing Apple coming out with their own authentication service in iOS 15. Now you're seeing the ability of being able to scan for all these different things to protect the user. What is cybersecurity going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when it's coming in concern to your personal device and your personal information? And so Csam is just one of the new technologies that Apple is coming out with. There's another that is even more focused on children under the age of 12.
13.
Okay. I think I read the documentation. I think it said 12, but we'll double check.
We'll dig in. Yeah.
So this technology is it's communication safety in messages. Communication safety in messages. And this technology is centered around the sending and receiving of content that is explicit or pornographic or violent or harmful. Okay? The difference here between Csam technology,
what's happening with iCloud,
and iCloud verification photos and analysis, as opposed to communication safety and messages, the difference is that communication safety and messages happens on the device. Okay?
And it's only for a specific group. So it's going to be, if you have a child that's on you have your family iCloud set up, you have your children on your account. In that setup, you can set restrictions for screen time and for all kinds of other stuff. This is an additional tool that Apple is giving parents to help protect children against harmful content.
For sure. And so as a parent, you have to turn the feature on. And as a child, you have to accept the feature and turn the feature on your phone as well. Okay, so there's two parts of consent there. It's not an automatic thing. There's two parts of consent. So now when you send a message, okay, that if Apple believes that that message being sent is what they deem to be violent or pornographic or within this category, that
based on machine learning.
So
it's not like a human is reviewing these. This part is machine learning.
Correct. We talk again about that secure enclave, and in that secure enclave is where that process happens. And so that machine learning goes and scans that picture and says, hey, yeah, I scanned this picture and I think that it is pornographic, or I think that it is violent. Okay? And of this thought, I'm going to blur the image. I'm going to blur the image being sent. On the receiving end, if the child receives an image that the iPhone believes is violent or pornographic, it blurs the image. It allows you to press a button to say view image, and it gives you a warning to say, hey, we believe that this is a violent image or a pornographic image, something that isn't suited for your age range. Do you still want to view this photo? And if you click yes, that is when a notification is sent to the parent. And the parent is notified, hey, my child has
is consuming harmful content.
Yep, they just triggered and they're looking at something that I don't think is cool. or the phone doesn't think that it's cool and should let me know to see if I think that is cool, if I think it's cool or not.
Acceptable
Or,
to view.
Right? And so this is different. There's a lot of
these are two
questions.
different features utilizing artificial intelligence and machine learning to assess images.
Correct.
Different ways. Okay.
Correct. And so the gray area behind this is, okay, so what information is being scanned by this machine learning? Is this machine learning now going through all of my photos and searching my library to figure out what it deems to be acceptable or not? No, that's not what's going on. What's going on here is that the machine learning has gone through intense algorithms to categorize images in a certain way and what it believes to be something. And so when it scans an image, and this is only for, again, we have those certain modifiers that have to be on. You have to be a child underneath the age of 12, and you have to be associated with a family account that has
for family sharing,
that has a parent or guardian associated with it. If those two aren't a thing, then this process never occurs. If you are a child above the age of 12 and you are a part of family sharing and this feature is on, the same scan happens and the blur happens as well as the warning saying, hey, this might be violent or harmful material, but that notification to the parent is never
that
sent.
part doesn't happen. Okay.
Right, that part never happens. And so I think that this is also a good technology. I think that it is something subtle that is happening in the background, but very, very powerful, and shows the power of machine learning. Okay, it shows the power of how...
It just keeps... Artificial intelligence just keeps nudging us like, I'm here.
And so, yeah. I think that this technology, as it grows, is going to help prevent a lot of harmful images and content being sent between children. I know that there's some third-party platforms out there that children use now. As even some of my students have talked to me about, that they get information or content that they aren't age appropriate for. All right, and there's no check, right? There's no filter for any of this content through these third-party applications. So while I'm not a parent myself, I deal with a lot of parents and their children. I teach a lot of their children. I have conversations with parents all the time. And it's my understanding that the safety of their child is paramount, physically and digitally.
Mentally and psychologically. Yeah, it all folds in.
Right? And so this protection in the digital space is just as important as the protection in the physical space. Okay? Just as you want to protect your child from a mass shooting.
You want to protect them from online predator?
You want to protect them from online predators 1,000%. And so as somebody that has interns under the age of 18, that has family members under the age of 12, I can appreciate this feature. And I think that parents should use it. I know that there's going to be pushback from children about this, but I mean, hey, that's just what it is to be a child. Some of these things you just have to deal with for the betterment of your safety. And I think with as many children out there that use iPhones and iPads today, especially in the age of COVID and distance learning, I think that this is right on time. This is right on time. So iOS 15 will be out, slated for, I think, like mid-September, if the latest October.
Second, third week of September.
Yep. So it's coming around. We'll be having some discussions about iOS 15 when it comes out. So we'll be recapping this conversation a lot. Right? I'm pretty sure that this is going to be coming up in our conversations a lot going forward. But iOS 15 will be here soon. So we'll have conversations about that.
We have some time left if you want to talk about the climate change models, computer models.
Yeah, I think I'm done with my CSAM topic. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So In the 2015 Paris Agreement, a whole lot of countries agreed that we were all gonna do our part to reduce carbon emissions to zero to keep the global temperature from rising to catastrophic levels. Because as we can see now, global warming, you know, being a factor, we're getting stronger storms, more extreme weather. If the world is not being like ravaged by a hurricane, it's on fire, like so we can see the effects and the impacts of climate change, and it's only going to keep getting worse if we don't take the necessary actions to combat that, right? So there's a scientific article that came out. I'm gonna add it to the resource center so you guys can review it as well, where several computer models were developed that evaluated like what do we need to do as a global society to reduce our carbon emissions to zero over the next like 40 years. And it kind of looks at some other opportunities where we can make changes to kind of turn the tide with this fight for against climate change. So let's see. The model started with data about current sources of greenhouse emissions, so things like cars, buses, airplanes, power plants, agricultural contributions to this area, because the dairy industry in particular contributes highly to greenhouse gases.
Really?
Yeah, cow farts, methane. It's a thing.
Oh, wow.
The actual like industry of raising cattle, either for use with milk or for meat, is very harmful for the environment. So like,
oh, I never knew that.
Part of a change that like we need to make as a society is relying less on beef as a meat product and looking to other alternative sources.
That's not gonna
like
go
vegetarian
well over in
diet. No, the Texans are gonna be so mad. That's like their whole thing. Let's see here. Looking at our energy consumption and the sources, you know, so like utilizing fossil fuels as a primary source to power our products. So the different model. Now, one thing that the models didn't really take into account is the advancement of technology. So the fact that solar is becoming cheaper and easier to use and employ. So it sure. They can be a little pessimistic in that sense because they're not looking at it's under the assumption that technology is going to stay the same as what we have access to right now.
Stay the same. So right now, like
yeah. So these, where we're at right now.
So solar panels, they're assuming that solar panels aren't going to
advance,
get more efficient. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
Correct.
Got it.
So this is kind of like worst case scenario.
Got it.
What do we need to do to save the planet? Let's see. Different models using different assumptions of course, arrive at different visions of what those pathways would look like. So there came up with like 11 variations of how we can get to net zero.
Okay.
Some of the changes that were proposed were relying less on personal vehicles, doing things like public transport, you know, like taking the bus instead of driving your car. Just kind of like carpooling on a bigger scale to reduce the amount of vehicles contributing. Let's see, lowering our energy consumption, of course, and then if we can replace our reliance on fossil fuels with more efficient and renewable energy sources, then that would help us to turn the tide as well. Where there is large concern as far as how successful and probable are these models, like can we actually pursue these options? The barrier in the way of that is that all of the countries around the world need to present a united front. Like we can't do the reason why we haven't made any advancements in this area is because everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Instead of everybody, the Paris Agreement was in 2015, we're in 2021 and we've made no progress. Like, we need to put this to the forefront of our agenda as nations, because like we all live on the same planet. So like if the planet is not hospitable to us anymore, then it's we don't have a lot of options, you know.
We're not gonna go to Mars.
I mean, the way these billionaires are moving, they're like, forget the people on Earth. Like, we don't just dip set, go to the moon or go to Mars, and that's just not that's not a reality for people who can't afford to move. Like, when we look at extreme weather events, the people who have the money to jump on a plane leave. The people who can't afford to leave stay in the city. Those are the people who are being impacted by climate disaster. It's people who are poor, people who can't afford, you know, to just leave and move somewhere else. So it's for the sake of our global community, we need to become more cohesive from a government standpoint, you know. And then in addition to that, on a personal level, personal choices. So we need to start looking at you know, our contributions to trash, because where is our trash going? We need to start looking at our consumption of various resources like water. How do we get our food? You know, our reliance on independent food sources. If the grocery stores were to tank, like, what happens? Are you able to grow your own food? Do you understand, you know, like, how do you get from... We understand having food on our plate, but we don't have a firm understanding of how does that food come from where it comes from. You know, we just go to the grocery store and we pick up what we need and we're good. But I think if we're gonna take these models seriously and try to reduce the temperature, you know, how quickly the temperature is rising on the planet, there are personal sacrifices that are gonna need to be made, and then on a global level, there's going to need to be a lot more teamwork going on to make these initiatives roll forward in a cohesive way.
Well, I would agree, but that would constitute us going against capitalism.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't, yeah.
No, absolutely.
That
because
if you
look at our how much trash we're producing, it's because we're using single-use plastic, single-use items. Our products are designed to work for a couple years and then we replace it with something new. So we're gonna need to completely like readjust how we approach our consumer culture.
And then more at the micro level, we look at like, so even homes and communities and how they're set up. Like, the fact that there has to be a community garden, like the fact that in some neighborhoods you can't grow a garden on your lawn, like you have to keep your lawn cut.
That makes no sense.
And growing up in Houston, like these things, they don't click. Moving down here to St. Thomas and seeing how the operation of society occurs here, it just makes you question, wait, why am I so dependent upon the system? Why am I so dependent upon the energy grid? Why am I so dependent upon the water pumps? Why am I so dependent upon the grocery store? Right? Why can't I do any of these things for myself? And so I guess that came from, what's the adage? Good times make soft men. Soft men make hard times, and then those hard times make strong men. So I guess we were at a point where we didn't want to do it for ourselves anymore.
It's a convenience thing. Everything about the States is about convenience. So it's like making sure your lawn is pretty, you know, the curb appeal is high. Yeah, it's all about a lifestyle and convenience.
Having growing peppers and strawberries and apples and fruit in your yard is frowned upon in a lot of communities, right? Yeah, you may have like one
city will
like
fine
huge,
you because they're usually you have a
the homeowners
there's
association.
A law about like your grass could only be a quarter inch.
The homeowner association will call
tall.
them on you.
Yep,
they will call them on you. You can't have cisterns.
In the States, yeah, that's a thing in the Virgin Islands.
Some people who
collect your rainwater, boo.
Everybody here in the Virgin Islands knows what a cistern is. To my people watching back in the States, I didn't know what a cistern was, right? A cistern
You have a basement. You don't have a cistern.
Yeah. Usually in our basements, it floods. We ain't got no basement. A cistern is a big pot, big bowl, huge gallon tub underneath your house that collects rainwater, and it filters and it sterilizes it so that the water that pumps through your house is that same rainwater.
You don't gotta buy water. That's the biggest scam. Like, bottled water is the biggest scam.
I was like, wait, what? And so us in the States, we have this stigma. I'm like, wait, I'm not touching
But
this
then,
water.
to be fair, like in the environment in the States, you have to be worried about acid rain, pollutants in the air, compromising, you know, the actual water you're able to collect.
Sarah, that's a whole different conversation. That's a whole different. We talk about chemtrails. We can get into that conversation.
If we look at wells,
we can
like
get into
when you
weather
poison
augmentation.
groundwater, like you can't use your
We
well
can get
no
into
more.
Flint, Michigan, and like we can get to a lot. But what time we got? Where we at?
I know
8:30.
the climate rabbit hole runs deep, and it's like if we don't do something about the way that we're existing on this planet, like if you think about the planet as a giant organism, look at yourself for example. You are a accumulation, you're a multicellular organism. If there's something foreign in your body that is threatening the well-being of the system, your body makes provisions to get rid of it. If we continue to act like a virus on this planet, the planet is gonna make provisions to exterminate the virus. We see stronger hurricanes destroying stuff. We're seeing all kind of freaky weather stuff that's destroying communities, like people who have to evacuate from these severe climate events. Like that's the next great migration in the world that we're looking at. Like all the houses that were torched and burned along the western end of the United States, those people can't live in those homes. They gotta move somewhere else. Like there's so many moving parts with this that we need to seriously evaluate. Like how can we be a symbiont on this organism? Like we need to coexist in a way with our planet that is sustainable. And that is not going to destroy our planet. We need to reevaluate this consumer, mindset. Capitalism is not gonna make the cut. And we just gotta do better. I just don't know how many ways to say it. We gotta do better, individually and collectively.
She's right. She's right 100%. And I don't want to say but I want to say but.
Ego is the obstacle.
No, just as an entrepreneur, you have to support capitalism in some form or fashion. And so, in knowing so, how do you do that dance, right? I've always looked at my partnership or my experience with capitalism as an entrepreneur as my dance with the devil. Okay, capitalism. And this was a quote that somebody said to me a long time ago. That capitalism, 9 times out of 10, the best thing that is for the company, 9 times out of 10 is not the best thing for the customer.
Or the planet.
And in this case, the planet. And we look at the planet as something that is just so durable that can
because we've been running amok for so long.
We just think that it's just
it'll be fine. The pendulum will swing the other way.
It'll be cool. We can just keep trucking along. And if we mess up, we'll just go to another planet and do it all over again.
If we want to look at data and we look at the amount of organisms that have gone extinct since our affair with trash has begun, our affair with capitalism has begun, it's like the biggest mass extinction. We're like running up the bill compared to the comet that extinguished the dinosaurs. We're like running up.
I put the but on that statement because my faith or my optimism in this is very, very small. This is very low. Because I know capitalism. And the grip that has on our society and wanting to keep things the way that they are and wanting to keep us in comfort and us inconvenience, that grip on our society is going to cripple us. And until that crumbles, then we might see change. But I don't think there's going to be any initiative that is going to occur that is going to spark that. I think the spark is going to be the degradation, the crumble, because we're not going to be able to let grow. It's going to have to crumble in our hands. We're not going to let go of the society that we created. All these houses with using all these lights. I can't tell you like how much energy I consumed in the States versus here.
Because
you just become so aware of it.
You hear my voice, stop burning my current.
Yeah, like you just become so aware of it. Like the lights just need to be on.
Nah, they don't.
Just because I'm in the house, the lights need to be. No.
That WAPA bill it says otherwise.
I need to run the water to its height, and I still do that a little bit, because I like hot showers. So I'm not, I'm still working on myself, right? We're all working. But, I remember back when I was a kid, we used to leave the water on a long time. And now we look at, that was back in the 90s. Now we look at California with water droughts.
The shortage.
And they
water shortage.
They tell you you can't water your lawn longer than 10, 15 minutes. They tell you that.
California's already on fire. Like, y'all need all the water you could get.
We used to play with the hose in the middle of the street for hours. Just
It's a wet fat.
For hours. And now they're telling the state of California, they have one of the most dense populations in the country, not to water your lawns because there's a water shortage. If you don't believe climate change is real, like, I'm not talking to you. That's where we are. Like, I'm not.
I don't understand.
There was a post on my
to deny climate change.
I wish I could pull it up right now.
Man.
I wish I could pull it up. There was a Facebook post that I put on my profile, and it was talking about every opinion is not valid. The notion that as a society that we agree that every opinion holds fact and merit and substance. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And as a society, we need to stop folding and giving breath to those opinions. Period. Pacifying somebody's voice. Like, just because you have a voice does not mean that it should be heard. In the conversations of those that have done their research, that have done cross references with other people that have done research to accumulate new thoughts.
Peer-reviewed articles.
All right. So if you don't believe climate change is real, we're not talking to you. Go do some research, figure it out, because it's a reality.
Yeah.
All right, figure it out. When you figure it out, then let's have the conversation about how we can decrease your carbon footprint, about what you can do to minimize the amount of negative effects that your worldly consumptions have on our system. Yes. So I don't have anything else to say.
No, that's pretty much it. Like, do better, be better, and maybe we'll survive our planet not getting, demolished.
So we talk about saving our planet, and we talk about saving our kids. Okay, protecting our kids from harmful content and protecting our planet from us. From us. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. From us, right? And being able to be in that space takes you being humble, takes you being able to being in the space of understanding that you have positive and negative effects on the earth, on the place that you live, on the place that your children will come into live and their grandchildren will come into live. How selfish is it of you to think that you can live this life and not leave it better for the next person? Or live this life with the thought that if it blows up tomorrow, you can just take a flight to another planet and start it all over again. Right? So I hope some of this conversation sparks some conversations amongst your peers. I hope it sparks some conversations amongst your household.
Introspection.
Yep. Some introspection. Some looking at yourself in the mirror and having some conversations with yourself. Some might call me crazy. Whatever. I've talked to myself, and I know through having just solo meditating moments with myself and going through my own experiences and seeing how those experiences have affected others and just really reflecting on that brings you a lot of understanding. So I would suggest you do so, and then take those conversations to those people that you trust, some people that you feel that would give you some constructive feedback. Honest constructive feedback. Because iOS 15 is coming. Scanning of photos is coming, which should bring about conversations about cybersecurity, okay, and how your information is being used and how companies are using your data and what data you decide to store on your phones and send to your friends now, right? And the conversations about climate change, about how you can decrease your negative effects on the world and how you can then influence others around you to do the same. So we thank you for tuning into this podcast. We're episode 13. Episode 13. Gosh, that's cool. Episode 13. Almost to 15 and almost to 20. By the time we know it, we'll be at episode 50. I wonder what episode 50 will be like. We'll see. If you're down here in the Virgin Islands and you need any Apple product support, definitely come down here and see us here at the shop. We're right off of Radisgata. It's in downtown Charlotte Amalia, right off of Main Street. We're right across from Stonehouse Cafe, right above Valentine's Jewelry Shop, and right next door to Chico Jewelry Repair. We have a YouTube commercial going on right now that kind of gives you a visual of how to get up here to the shop. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on our website at Google Maps. You can find us on our website at Joshua the Genius. That's Genius with the J. JoshuaTheGenius.com. And if you have any questions or any feedback about the podcast, you can message us at, what's the email for that?
thegeniuspodcast@gmail.com.
Perfect. So again, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Have a good one. Peace.